Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is Global Reality Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us tonight. It's Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning now, 31st into the 1st of June, 2011. Glad you could be with us and stay up late with us here for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. We've got a big amount of news here tonight for you, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of very interesting stories and things to talk about on the broadcast tonight, and that's certainly, I never thought it's it's feast or famine sometimes. I never thought that I would actually want there to be an influx of news, because over the past several months, we've just had all these ops, and then we had the Osama Obama op and all this stuff, and so it actually, it's kind of a welcome sight in one way to see us returning to a large amount of important things to talk about. On the other hand, oh man, on the other hand, my goodness gracious, just an absolute, I can't believe it. Some of this stuff that I'm reading tonight here. It's just if you can dream it, man, they're doing it now. It's just bizarre. So we got some different stories to talk about concerning that tonight. We have more archaeological discoveries, more massive, huge, just breaking archaeological discoveries now that are coming out. As we've talked about, as we've seen this pattern throughout the past several years, that coinciding with an increase in UFO activity is a very interesting thing in light of the fact that whether or not the alleged Project Bluebeam documents are fact or fiction, the fact of the matter is, it does talk about in those alleged documents that archaeological discoveries that would bring about questions for mankind about who we are, where we've came from, and our whole history, and really, when you look at it, how it ties into the things we've been reading out of William Bramley's book, The Gods of Eden, which we will continue tonight from the chapter we left off at last night, chapter 36 there. So we'll pick up there tonight as well here on the broadcast. So we see how these things coincide with that. We talked about last night the archaeological discoveries, these new pyramids they said that they found in Egypt using satellite imagery. We went back to the new chambers that were found inside the Great Pyramid just the night before the revolution and civil unrest broke out there just a few months ago in Egypt. When we had, who was it, William Henry on the broadcast a little while ago, he didn't know about that. And he said that he was actually in Egypt, which I thought was kind of interesting, at the time in which the Civil War stuff broke out, and said he had no idea about that. And there it was, lo and behold, we went and read that from the article, from the Discovery Channel article there. Well, more of that's coming out, and then there's more things. It just, and we'll talk about this more in a bit, but I just want to say real fast before I go too far into it, because it's just so hot on my head, because I've just seen this. I've been documenting these patterns and seeing these patterns here in the news on my radio show for almost 4 years now. And boy, they are looking for something, aren't they? It's just, there's just no question now that there is something in particular, or some things in particular, that it seems that the powers that be are on a fast track to find, because it appears that if they do not, there's some sort of timeline here. If they do not, something could happen, or something may happen. It does lead a lot of credence to the stories we've heard about the crystal skulls, doesn't it? Kind of brings that back into the fold. I've seen evidence of that for the past 3 or 4 years, that it seems that, and I put together this theory that where these things are located, or where you're going to see wars and civil wars, now things break out. And I had talked about back in 2008 on the show, back when I was over on Oracle Broadcasting, that it seemed to me, may have actually been before that, may actually have been on the TrueNet Radio days when I first started talking about this, I think. It all kind of blurs together, but I was talking about how it looks like, there are probably some things that they're going to be looking for as far as antiquities in Venezuela, since, that's been kind of named here and there as sort of the next target that the elite have in their crosshairs for global domination and endless warfare. And then, of course, after doing some digging, I found out that indeed in the area of Venezuela, that's where Viracocha was said to have been, setting up his religion, which again goes a long way towards an idea that Bramley had talked about these different extraterrestrials coming down and all claiming to be gods and seeding different religions to different types of people all over the world. And lo and behold, you have, that's where Viracocha was, and Viracocha was the same as Enki or Quetzalcoatl or Jesus or Onas or Enki or any one of those. So I find that highly interesting. That would be the next target that they're going for there. But anyway, we've got some news here tonight where we're going to get into that more, and I'll iterate more on that and go into more detail on that here in just a bit. So we've got quite a bit on our plate here tonight. We're glad you could be with us here for this late night edition of the broadcast. If you want to send in emails during the show, if you'd like to hear me get into anything on the broadcast for you that maybe, because oftentimes, I don't know, there may be topics you're researching or topics you're into right now that may be your hot button issue, and I can't tell what everybody's hot button issue is every day. So it helps if you send email, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. You can send on those emails during the broadcast, and I will do my best to answer them and discuss them on the show here. I need to go through the stack here and see if I had it, because I've got more condolences and more great emails from listeners out there. Thank you very much, those people. Here's one I wanted to read. This is very cool. I'm starting to get more and more messages from people outside of the United States that are finding our show. That's fascinating to me. That's fascinating to me, and I love all you people who are outside the United States, because that's what that whole phony patriot movement and Alex Jones thing has been for so long, hasn't it? It's all been sort of to make it out as this is some just Americanized thing or localized only to the United States. And that's just not a fact. And I knew that going into doing radio back in 2007. That's why I originally wanted to call it just came to me. And I said, yeah, well, that encompasses it the best, because it is. The reality of all of this information is that it's taking place on a global scale. It's not just compartmentalized to the United States or to, Europe or anywhere else. So it really does make me feel really good to see that we have so many listeners. I was looking at the statistics the other day off the stream statistics, and man, I was blown away. 33 or 34 different countries I was counting, in places I would have never done. We've got people listening in Israel. We've got people listening in Germany and New Zealand and Australia, in Russia, little weird places too, Latvia and places like that. Just all over the place. And that's an amazing thing, man. It really is. So here, and I've got a couple here tonight. Here's one, says, "Dear Josh, I was listening to your show, only for a few months. For me, it was a long way to go and a language barrier to cross to follow your show." That's awesome. So, with my ridiculous bumpkin talking up here and broken English, you're actually able to actually able to hold your attention long enough for you to see what my point was. That I'm amazed by that. You are a juggernaut, my friend. That it says, I don't know if you're in the mood to think about it, but I can tell you the German franchise of the InfoWars, infokrieg.tv, was always suspect to me. It is told by former users of the InfoKrieg forum that there is a lot of censorship going on in that forum. They don't allow different opinions inside the German InfoWar. In the Hollywood movie A Scanner Darkly, I've seen Alex Jones, and it was impossible to take that character serious after watching that movie, where he basically played himself. I'm looking forward to your interview at Red Ice Radio. Yeah, they had contacted me, and that was just a couple of weeks before my father passed away. So I hadn't had a chance to schedule something with him because it was just touch and go every day, and I don't want to set something and not be able to fulfill that. So yeah, I've got to get back to the folks at Red Ice and schedule the time to go on. But I will be going on there hopefully real soon. But I'll let you guys know here as soon as I get that booked and ready to go. Hopefully they'll understand what my situation has been over the past few weeks. I also like your shows with Lee Rogers. These shows are always interesting and entertaining. Well, thank you very much. I agree with that. My condolences on your loss. Hope that my English was understandable. Yes, it's very good. And we hope that we'll be able to help you keep your network running. Kind regards from Germany, Make Neubauer. So from Germany there. Thank you very much from Germany. And we got one here from Oslo, Norway. And it says it's hard to lose near ones that we love. I know you will use this death to boost your message. I thought it had happened. I know you will get through this. I have so much respect for all you do to wake people up. Thank you for your good spirit. Strange with the World Wide Web, and people can have a contact from great distances. Yes, that's an amazing thing. Respect, Josh. You do great work, and it's important big time. Thanks. You inspire people in the strangest places. I totally think Alex Jones is a Jesuit stooge. I agree. But like Stalin, did the people behind it all get their pawns? I can't really understand what he's trying to say there, but it's kind of, he's from Norway. Respect and good wishes, Josh, Jean in Norway. So thank you very much there. So yeah. Cool stuff to get messages from people from all over the globe, man. It's a really rad thing. We got to jump into our news tonight. Don't forget, we've got, I think the last time I checked, I think we've got about 12 hours or so left on our chipping banner there. We have to meet our goal for the month to pay the bills by tomorrow. So please don't let us get in a red alert situation, and please go to the chipping banner and get that fulfilled there in the next 12 hours so we can get everything handled for the month and continue. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to jump head first into the news tonight. I'm almost tempted to let you guys pick what I talk about tonight because everything's just so wacky. Do we talk about transhumanist, crazy technology shit first? Do we talk about ancient artifacts and how it pertains to all that? Or do we just... I'm blown away here. I don't even know where to start. I will start. I know where I want to start. This is a little something I found tonight. Now, immediately when I heard about this, I said, I've come across that in my research about the Illuminati. You might remember several weeks ago, I was talking about Joe Biden, and we were talking, I think we were discussing the Obama situation. And I was talking about how traditionally, presidents are always puppets, and vice presidents are always ultimately more powerful in pulling more strings. And of course, with Biden and his connection with the Pakistani ISI and being the go-between, running the money between the alleged hijackers and all these operators inside of there, Biden proved himself over a period of years to the power structure, and is in a very, very large position of power now. And all this stuff has been playing out, that just played out with Osama. This whole stage incident has been transpiring since the time when Bill Clinton was in office. And I saw this thing that says Biden to be AWOL, absent without leave on deficit talks. Right? I mean, just seems maybe kind of like, okay, whatever. Maybe, just a boring fucking article. Who cares, right? Well, this is what caught my eye at the bottom of this. It says, this is the reason why he's not going to be at these alleged deficit talks. So apparently what's going on is they're having meetings to discuss the deficit, what to do about it. Biden says, you know what? I don't give a fuck about reducing the deficit. I don't give a fuck about that. Who cares? I'm going to go do something else because it's more important. Well, listen to this. This is what he's going to go do instead of going to these deficit talks. Vice President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden have departed en route to Rome, Italy, to lead the presidential delegation to the celebration of the 150th anniversary of the unification of Italy on Thursday, June 2nd. I went, wait a minute, the unification of Italy? I've come across that, many times in my research on Jesuits and the CMP and the whole end of this and the Illuminati. And I went, wait a second. Wasn't the guy that Weishaupt passed the Bavarian version, which was the Freemasonic version, where he added illuminated degrees to it, which is what Weishaupt's version of the Illuminati was, not what the original Illuminati was that the Los Alumbrados Society created with St. Ignatius Loyola, same guy that started the Jesuits. My God. Well, who did, because I was sitting there thinking, well, my goodness, Giuseppe Mazzini. Giuseppe Mazzini was the guy that Weishaupt turned over the reins to. And listen to this. Two prominent radical figures in the unification movement were Giuseppe Mazzini and Giuseppe Garibaldi. And what this was when Italy was broken up into all these little different things and they brought it together. That was their first sort of bringing together of power. And lo and behold, Biden is going to this event in lieu of going to a deficit talk for this operation that was executed by the Illuminati and the Jesuits to unify the country of Italy. Unbelievable stuff there. You just find the little hints everywhere, folks. You find them everywhere. Because, Joe Biden, he's the guy that says what? What did he say in that video? I always used to say when I was a young guy, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. Remember that? Remember those words? Well, gee, Josh, that don't make no sense then. I don't get it. How can Biden be a Zionist and still be and going over there with them Jesuits and them Illuminatiers? Don't you see, man? So while everybody's, focusing in on, proud to be a Zionist, oh, he's a Zionist, you're not paying attention to the little things they're dropping in articles about, that are just sort of these, nonsense articles about why Joe Biden's not going to the deficit talks. For some reason, that's the stuff that I always catch. I don't know how. It's always by accident, but I'll just be, flipping through stuff and I'll look down and I'll find a little piece of something. And, so right there, so he's going to this get together to celebrate when Giuseppe Mazzini, the Jesuit head of the Illuminati, unified Italy on behalf of the priest class. My God. Does it get any more obvious now, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think so. Well, that's just a taste of the craziness we have tonight. Let's continue here. Rise of the machines. Robots develop their own language that lets them meet up, chat, and imagine. In the Terminator films, it was the moment when machines learned to think for themselves that sparked the downfall of humanity. If that hypothesis proves to be, then scientists at the University of Queensland might have a lot to answer for. Their Lingo Droid project has developed robots that are creating and speaking their own languages and increasing their own knowledge in the process. The robot language has now evolved to a point where they can arrange to meet each other in different places and even hold polite conversations. Their words are electronic noises created using a random number of syllables, which are then assigned to locations. Place names created so far have included Kuzo, Jaro, and Fexo. Each location was only around a few meters in size. To test and develop their language skills, the Lingo droids played word games in which they arranged to meet in other places, and it has worked successfully in simulations and in a real office. So these machines are now evolving, getting smarter, learning how to speak. They're coming out with that. They're coming out with new more exciting ways to augment ourselves, humans, with technology. That's the future of the medical industry, baby. The haves and the have-nots. You got the money, you got the cash. If you decide to go into that corporate office building and
suck Satan's cock
and get that paycheck, guess what? You're going to get the good premium insurance plan, and you'll get the biogenetic upgrade. You'll get the implant that'll merge you with the grid and make you a transhuman. Not quite human. You know, once you're not human, you can't go back. I hope you understand that. You can't just say, oh, I'm just going to dabble in being a little bit non-human. No, it doesn't work like that. Bionic eye that conquers blindness caused by retinal disease gets official approval. How many years have I been telling you up here they're going to roll Stevie Wonder out with Ray Kurzweil at the Grammys, and he's going to go, I can see, and he's going to play. Where? You know, little Stevie's going to be up there staring into the camera. Oh, it's coming. An artificial retina that can restore some vision to people blinded by a rare genetic disease has been given the official go-ahead. After successful trials, European regulators have approved the development after 30 patients were tested, 10 of whom were from Britain. Scientists say it marks a major step forward in bionic eye technology, as it proves electronic implants can be used to restore sight. So there you go. And there's just we're starting to see more and more of the technology exponentiating. We're seeing massive raping and pillaging and looting of antiquities, wars, news conflicts, and civil wars breaking out just coincidentally, where archaeologists for years have speculated and found evidence that things like the Ark of the Covenant were located in Yemen, other things that have been not uncovered as of yet in Egypt. We saw the looting going on there, the shuffle of the antiquities. And yet Zawas is still right down there. I thought they sent that motherfucker to jail. I'm reading all these news stories today we'll talk about here in a bit. And Zawas is front and center in every one of them. I thought we got rid of that prick, at least for a little while. I mean, this cocksucker just keeps coming back for more, doesn't he? Goodness gracious. More crazy transhumanist technology tracking. This is... You remember, I think it was last year, we talked about that movie Eagle Eye with a supercomputer, you know, trying Shia LaBeouf, Beef of the Gods. That's literally what his name means. Shia LaBeouf, Beef of the Gods, man. That's what it means. No wonder that prick thinks he's something. I mean, if your name was Beef of the Gods, you'd go around fucking strutting your shoulders around too, wouldn't you? Goddamn. This is it. This is Eagle Eye. I saw this today and went, Eagle Eye. It's here. And it's been here for a long time. But, you know, that's the thing is, if they're admitting to it, they've had it for 10 years. That's the rule, man. That's proven itself to be a rule time and time again. Because I remember things that were talked about, like the X-37B, you know, oh, that was crazy, kooky nonsense, Moonbat shit 10 years ago, and then boom, you know, they admit it. And then they tell us something that we didn't even speculate, that it has a particle beam weapon on it. Oh, yeah. They're using them. They're those little stealth-looking unmanned drone things. But listen to this. One brain, hundreds of eyes, DARPA plots manhunt master controller. Yeah, enemy of the state, too. That was another movie I was thinking about that had this technology in it. So that tells you, man, that movie came out, what, 10 years ago? At least? So they've had it that long. Thought military tracking technology couldn't get any creepier? Hold on to your tinfoil hats and hide behind the nearest curtain, because the next generation of manhunting gear just took another step closer to reality. The Pentagon's bleeding edge research shop, DARPA, the boys in the white lab coats over there, they visited our website once. I was really just kind of taken aback by that. What could the mad scientists in the white lab coats over at DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, what in the world could they want with me and my little website? I don't know. I don't like that, though. Boys over there, just keep your white lab suits and your little prongs and all that stuff to yourself. DARPA announced this week that it had awarded a $14 million contract to defense contractor SAIC to build Insight, its system of systems effort to mash up snooping sensors that'll find human prey on the battlefield. Human prey, which means you and I. Well, that's who they're building all this stuff for. Yeah, they're testing it on Al-Qaeda and them goddamn Arabers. They're testing it on them, but, you know, there's a lot more of us, so they got to test it over there first and, you know, depopulate a great deal until they start using it on us. So it's, you know, it's coming. DARPA has developed loads of sensors and spying gear, everything from a 1.8 gigapixel Argus camera to the vehicle and dismount exploitation radar. Oh, that's cute. Oh, how long did you boys have to think that one up? I'm telling you, they're just taking all of the fucking comic book shop nerds and video game nerds and paying them seven figures and making them go work at DARPA. You seen these goddamn acronyms their motherfuckers are coming up with now? You hear that? Think about this real hard for a second. Vehicle and dismount exploitation radar. Vader. I mean, come on, boys. Are you kicking back cash to Lucas on the back end or something for rights? Can't give it a little bit more creative than that? You motherfuckers are naming your new DARPA toys after Star Wars characters? You bunch of fucking pathetic nerds. And I'm a nerd myself, so I can say that, but you guys are fucking nerds. You know why? Because you take a government check. You know what that makes you? The worst kind of fucking nerd. A sold out, paid off nerd. Jesus Christ. That, the acronym Vader.
Suck Satan's cock, DARPA. You suck that shit real good, bitch.
My God. That pinpoints humans, cars, and trucks from a distance, but getting all these systems to mesh together so that your average grunt can form a picture clear enough to track a high-value terrorist or insurgent in real time is tricky, to say the least. It's a classic problem in intelligence work, too much information and too much trouble connecting the dots. The result is information overload in general and information underload on specific targets. And that's the problem that DARPA wants Insight to solve. It's supposed to help users sift through the heaps of information collected by the U.S. military's numerous sensor platforms to find just the right information on just the right targets using the most appropriate combination of spying gear. DARPA wants Insight to integrate data from a dizzying array of sources. It's hungry from info from ground-moving target indicators, infrared video, multispectral imagery, human tipsters, snitches, audio intercepts, even text chats and social media, among others. The idea, though, isn't to configure the program for a fixed set of inputs, but to allow it to be flexible enough to plug and play with different sensors as it needs to dictate. But Insight isn't just supposed to be a warehouse for all the data soaked up by the military's eyes and ears. It's supposed to make sense of it, too. In a notice to researchers, DARPA states that the system needs to be able to perform, quote, threat network detection estimation. Well, you're going to need an AI platform for that, baby. And they got one just for you, don't they? The Caesar system. So DARPA states this is unbelievable. This is it. My God, this is Eagle Eye. And I didn't think when I started reading this, I just started thinking of Eagle Eye, you know. The movie that Roger Ebert called the most implausible movie of all time. Yeah, you would call it that, you paid off cocksucker, because you don't want people knowing that's actually here now. And I had no idea when I started reading this article and I made that reference to that movie or to Enemy of the State that this would tie into the whole Caesar thing. But my God, right here, it says that it does. Because DARPA straight up says in their, I guess in what could loosely be referred to as the system requirements for this new software called Insight, DARPA says that its spy system needs to be able to track so-called high-valued individuals. It says DARPA states that the system needs to be able to perform threat network detection, estimation, anomaly detection, and behavioral pattern of life modeling. That's unbelievable. That's got to be AI. It's the only thing that can do that. Pattern of life modeling, including cultural, social, and insurgency dynamics. This is unbelievable stuff, folks. This is data mining, data gathering things down to be able to use it for a military purpose against the people. I mean, this is worrisome. Pattern of life modeling, including cultural, social, and insurgency dynamics. They're going to know every little thing about what you do, how many times a day you go to the bathroom. This is what this is about. So they can use it in a tactical manner, folks. In other words, Insight needs to get a feel for the rhythm of life in the areas it's looking at. Understand what kinds of threats its users are interested in and be able to automatically pick them out of the heaps of data and background noise. Just so Insight isn't running off its own smarts alone, DARPA is planning a number of tools to aid the human-software collaboration, including visualization, hypothesis manipulation, and online learning. Hypothesis manipulation. That's an interesting term. What would be the goal? Give me a fucking break. Let's think about that for a minute. What would be the goal of manipulating a hypothesis? Someone has a hypothesis, an educated guess. You're telling me this technology enables them to manipulate a hypothesis? I don't think that's going to be used for the forces of good and fluffy clouds and Jesus. Do you? I cannot believe what these guys admit to. That's the most mind-blowing thing about people who just flat refuse to wake up or look at this information at all. Because, my God, man, the stuff that they just tell you openly, this is crazy. Hypothesis manipulation. Now, if I get up here on my radio show on any given day and say that the powers that be and the elite and government and the military and everything else manipulate people's hypotheses, meaning I make a hypothesis about something, an educated guess, and then they go on TV and try and, steer the information the other way, I'm considered a conspiracy theorist. How am I a conspiracy theorist if they openly say that hypothesis manipulation is part of their game plan, a part of this technology? That's unbelievable. As well as other algorithms and data processing technologies. They say right here, this is, oh my God, this is huge. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. If you remember the shows that I did when we were talking about the Caesar supercomputer system, one of the things that we talked about were these different packages they would sell you that cost upwards of hundreds of billions of dollars. And they have a portable Caesar system that I think floats on a ship or something of that nature. They have the big main system, and they have portable ones. And you can buy different, plugins essentially for it. And these plugins cost in the hundreds of billions of dollars. But they can custom one of these supercomputer systems to tailor your specific needs for what you're going to be using it for. Well, that's exactly what this DARPA Insight program just said. It said that it's going to have, different ability to do different types of things. Exactly as Caesar described. This is going to work in tandem with Caesar. There's just no question. So how will Insight be used on the battlefield? Think high-value targets for one. DARPA says its spy system needs to be able to track so-called high-value individuals and insurgents even over the long term and across a range of settings from rural to urban. Insight's also supposed to be capable enough to think one step ahead of the threats it tracks and anticipate their next move, like sniffing out a possible ambush. This is identical to the technology we talked about last night that they're going to start using and they're testing now in airports, this, pre-crime Philip K. Dick technology where, they can tell by scanning brainwaves if somebody's thinking about having the intent to commit something. All done under the guise of a phony threat, all sold to you via 9/11 and that goddamn Hollywood spectacle they put on in front of all of us. That gave them the open door to do all of this, folks. You just can't deny it. I understand that a lot of people, including myself, have thought the 9/11 issue was overplayed and sort of over discussed and whatnot, and it would be you'd be justified in saying that, but I do have to say this is undeniable that my God, that thing has given them the ability, folks, to use mind scanning technology against us now, to use these real time tracking everything that you do. On the ground, it would play out like this. An analyst adds to a watch list the name of a particularly important insurgent or citizen. A sensor picks up someone who might be him driving past a checkpoint in Iraq. Insight automatically recognizes that he'll soon drive out of the range of the current sensor and switches over to a new snooping device closer by to pick him up down the road. It follows him as he picks up associates and drives to a meeting, keeping in constant watch on him as it shifts from sensor data to communication intercepts to the real-time reports of spies on the ground, ultimately verifying his identity. A system this complex you can't just dump in Iraq or Afghanistan. So DARPA is looking to set up an incubator, a sort of virtual world where all these sensors and sensor integrators can be tested out first. This pixelized place will pit the system against a battery of simulated sensor data and information collected from real-world threats to see how it performs at tracking threats. Once it's finished in the virtual world, it moves to meat space testing at the Army's National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California. Only then would it go to an honest-to-God war zone. So this is it, full spectrum dominance. And everything that starts out in the military comes to what area later? The civilian aspect. It does, doesn't it? That's exactly where this stuff is heading. Man, oh man, oh man. Let's see what else. We got a lot more archaeological stuff and a lot more things we're going to get into here tonight. You guys hear about this? They scrambled F-16s on this plane because some guy put his fucking reclined his seat down into some passenger's lap, and they got into a big fist fight. And NORAD actually had to scramble jets, but apparently they couldn't get that done on 9/11. I'm sure they can do it when two motherfuckers are fighting in a plane. That's funny as hell. Oh, I got to talk about this one though. This is great. I was eating something the other day and I was thinking this. I thought to myself, you know what? They'll probably have something like this eventually. And boy, lo and behold, just a couple of days later here we are in the news. Edible RFID tags track your food from beginning to end. And when I say end, I mean, you know what end I'm talking about. Keeping track of everything we eat would be a great idea, and I'm sure we'd learn all kinds of things we don't really want to know about our diet and overall health. Until now, it's been a major hassle to do this, but tiny digestible RFID tags could automate the entire process for every single piece of food that we consume. RFID tags are antennas that don't need batteries or complicated circuitry. When brought near an RFID reader, they passively transmit a simple code that can be used as an identifier. The tags are simple enough and cheap to make. You can just print them out, and they can be made small enough so that if you eat one, your stomach acid will naturally break it down into a tiny amount of silver that's less than what you'd find in tap water. NutriSmart is a concept for food tracking system that uses RFID tags embedded in food along with a special plate that scans everything you eat for the purposes of tracking nutrition and food allergies, as well as to provide a little extra information on just what exactly it is that you're scarfing down. Again, full spectrum dominance. Where do you think that information is going to go? That's going to go into a supercomputer. That's going to be used against you at some point, too. They're going to be mandating what your intake can be, it's going to be all through the computer. We are seeing but the glimpses of what our future will be, but if we're not paying attention to these glimpses, the future will be here before we know it, and there will be nothing left to do about it. So we have to continue to raise the awareness. I have to be able to continue with my work, continue to make my films, continue to do my radio show. Because We cannot allow this future that is a possibility, and there is no absolute, going to happen scenario thing for any of this. There's millions of scenarios that may play out. We just have to, do our best to not make it a complete wash. You know what I mean? Give these guys somewhat of a fighting chance. Or give ourselves a fighting chance against these guys, rather. Anyway, let's take a break and come back, get into more news for you tonight. We'll also be continue reading from chapter 36 of William Bramley's Gods from Eden, Gods of Eden, here for you on the broadcast tonight. Chip and Banner is there. We got about 12 hours left on it, so please help us meet. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us tonight. We're yet another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast, and we're going to carry on here with more news and information for you tonight. We're also going to be reading from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden as well. And so we're glad you can be with us. And thank you so much for being here. My website's www.theglobalreality.com. If you're listening on a YouTube video or something later, you want to make sure you get back to where the chat room and the radio archives and the Chip and Banner and all that stuff is, and my films. www.theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. And thank you so much for being with us here tonight. And we've got about, let's see here. How much time we have left on here? Yeah, now it's page is being weird on me. I don't know. You guys notice? I noticed some weird outages with the website last night. I don't know what was going on there, but we've got roughly about 12 hours left on our Chip and Banner there. We've got to meet that goal by tomorrow to pay the bills. So please support us, folks, if you can, and help us continue on commercial-free and uncensored and continue on, period. So we do it as a result of our listening audience, everything that we get. We don't have anything from outside sources other than that. I don't sell advertising time. I don't have ads on my website, none of that. And we just ask that if you get something out of our broadcast here and you enjoy it and you tell other people about it, that you support us that way so that we can continue on and make films and everything else. So thank you so much to everybody out there. Oh, let's see what we got. Oh, this is a good one. This is a knee slapper here from old Council for National Policy stooge. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Afghanistan no longer a source of terrorism. Well, that's nice to know, considering we're pumping all the billions of dollars in arms and troops and sending over big contractors over there, big military contractors. According to Stephen Harper, it's no longer a source of terrorism. So, okay, so why are we over there? Well, obviously, it should be clear to everyone now, as it's been clear to most of us for a very long time. They're not in Afghanistan for terrorists, folks. They're there for what is there. Resources, antiquities, who knows what else. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper on Monday said Afghanistan is no longer a source of global terrorism during a surprise visit to the war-torn country, but still urged vigilance on the threat. So there's, so there you go. They just admitted if you're paying attention. Yeah, no threat there, but still, we got to be there to get those trillion in resources out of there. Highest greenhouse gas emissions in history push global warming towards dangerous levels. I wrote that article, back 2008? Global warming being engineered by chemtrails. You can type that into Google, type my name, then type that, global warming being engineered by chemtrails, and uncovered how the Department of Energy and NOAA and the National Science Foundation and all these big government science foundations, along with industries that produce Alcoa, who produces aluminum. We've got all these different paint companies that produce paint for cars and houses and things like that, who all, as a result of their corporate activity every year, produce massive amounts of this thing called sulfur hexafluoride, SF6. It's the most toxic greenhouse gas known to man, according to the Kyoto Protocol. We're dumping billions and billions of large amounts of this stuff into the atmosphere, and then they're turning around and trying to tell us that it's global warming caused by our cars. So we need to pay them a carbon tax. They admit they sprayed this stuff into the atmosphere. It's actually there's a book, I think, called Advances in Weather Modification Research, something like that, a college textbook, and it admits in there that they spray that along with chaff. That's what chemtrails, that's part of what that is. But you can Google that article that I talked about, global warming being engineered by chemtrails. You can see all that information I documented in there about how they're doing this. So, yeah, I mean, we've closed the books on that one a couple of years ago. They're saying the Earth, the moon now may have as much water as the Earth. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Does that prove what the ancient texts talked about when they said that used to be this water planet called Tiamat, and it would reflect the light of the sun, and it would appear as if there were two suns in the sky from Earth. And it talked about how the Anunnaki were being pursued across the galaxy, and they'd put some kind of homing beacon on Tiamat to make the people that were pursuing them believe that they were there. And when their pursuers blew up the planet, the pieces and the pieces of that and all the water came down, flooding down to Earth. This was what caused the Great Flood, allegedly, or one of them anyway. And the rest of the pieces formed the asteroid belt. And then some people believe that the rest of the pieces of Tiamat were used to form our moon, and believed to be formed by someone, because it does appear that our moon is an artificial, or at least partly artificial, partly natural satellite. They've never found another moon that orbits like our moon orbits our Earth. But it's absolutely vital and essential to life on this planet. We couldn't exist without it. So I find that highly interesting that, you think about, they're saying the moon may have as much water as the Earth does. Water may be plentiful in the moon's interior, as on Earth. The study of Apollo mission lunar rocks has revealed. So they said that back in 2009, when they blew up the moon, the reason they were blowing up the moon was to try and find water there. And India was over there going, "Hello, you stupid Americans! We only blew it up once. We have to find water." Wrong country, but yeah. So I thought they already found water there. So they're going back to Apollo 17 moon rocks to discover there's water there. Well, how come we blew up the moon then? I don't get it. I'm confused. Explain it to me, please. Make me feel better about this. All right, let's get into these crazy. Listen to this. We've got so many new. Last night we talked about these different archaeological discoveries and how many crazy new ones there are, and it seems like we're moving towards some great revealing. When we are. Listen to this. We've got more tonight. You're not going to believe this stuff. Underneath the crowded alleys and holy sites of Old Jerusalem, hundreds of people are snaking at any given moment through tunnels, vaulted medieval chambers, and Roman sewers in a rapidly expanding subterranean city invisible from the streets below. At street level, the walled old city is an energetic and fractious enclave with a physical landscape that is predominantly Islamic and a population that is mainly Arab. So they're building like some sort of new underground city there on tops of some old underground city that's already been built. It's just crazy. Fresh Incan treasures unearthed as discovery of 9 tombs in Peruvian Andes is hailed as the most significant since Machu Picchu. What? Excuse me. See, is anybody else with me starting to get the opinion that they're searching for something? That they're looking for something very specific? It could force historians to reconsider the origins of the mighty Incan Empire. Archaeologists have discovered and excavated 9 tombs in Peru from the pre-Hispanic Wari civilization, the Peruvian government said yesterday. The finding in the southern Cusco region suggests the Wari, who flourished in the Peruvian Andes between 700 and 1200 AD, may have controlled areas where the Incan Empire later flourished. Juan Ocio, Peru's Minister of Culture, said that the Incas could have been inspired by the Wari culture in enabling them to develop their entire political system. The Incas built the largest empire in the New World between 1400 and 1532 AD. Spanish conquistadors had seized control of their territory, pushing them to take final refuge in the Vilcabamba district of Cusco, where the tombs were found. The tombs show the Wari also inhabited the thick jungles of the Vilcabamba and possibly inspired the political structure of the elaborate Incan Empire. And so, again, more evidence is coming out about other lesser-known civilizations and other things that may have influenced other ones. It makes you wonder why these have been pushed underground for so long. And we know that the evidence is pointing in the direction that the reason some of these different civilizations and different types of people that have been repressed from history and kept down is the reason they have is because their origins lie in extraterrestrial places. So here's yet another crazy archaeological story. We've got more here tonight. A team of Egyptian and European archaeologists have unearthed a statue of the ancient Egyptian king Amenhotep III and his funerary temple in Luxor. The 2.5-meter alabaster head of the 18th dynastic king remains intact. Zahi Hawass, Antiquities Minister, said in a statement Tuesday, Amenhotep III ruled from 1390 to 1352 BC. Hawass described the statue's face as a masterpiece of royal portraiture, and it has almond-shaped eyes outlined with cosmetic bands, a short nose, and a large mouth with wide lips. Unbelievable stuff. And these things are going to start to challenge more and more what people believe, especially when people start asking more questions. And I think that there is something that they're coinciding with these archaeological discoveries and the whole disclosure, alien, extraterrestrial thing as well. You'd be a fool to think that they're not coinciding that and running that op together. They most certainly are. And then of course what's continuing to go on with this piece of archaeological antiquity that Hawass is trying to get back from Israel, but they don't seem to want to give up. I find this a very interesting story because obviously whatever this piece is, whoever has it or is going to have a great deal of power. A pharaonic artifact that was smuggled out of Egypt, taken to Germany, and is now in an Israeli institution must be returned, Minister of Antiquities Zahi Hawass announced Saturday. Again, why isn't this motherfucker in jail? The piece was discovered in Egypt in 1910 west of the Khufu Pyramid. An archaeologist called George Steindorf took it, along with half of the pharaonic artifacts found by the expedition for display in museums and universities. Hawass told Al-Mazri Al-Yum that the University of Leipzig in Germany gave the artifact to a committee for the victims of the Holocaust. He said that this was because it was allegedly sold by a German Jewish archaeologist at less than its real value to the university in 1936. Hawass said the ministry has embarked on legal action against the Israeli institution at the International Court of Justice. So again, what is the evidence here? The evidence is that they continue to are looking for these artifacts that just happen to be in places where they're launching new wars and launching new, violent overthrows and staging these coups d'etats and staging these revolutions and putting in puppet dictators. They are looking for something. They're searching for something that is going to be the linchpin. It's either going to give them a great deal of power or take a great deal of power away from them. Here's another one, completely different part of the world. What are they looking for? From the Daily Mail, unseen for 1,800 years, archaeologists find a 120-meter tunnel leading to funeral chambers deep below an ancient Mexican city. It has taken technology almost 2 millennia to break one of the greatest secrets of the ancient Americas. Archaeologists have discovered a recreation of the underworld at the ancient city of Tutankhamun in Mexico thanks to a radar device. Researchers have only advanced 7 meters along the tunnel, but the radar has revealed it to be 120 meters long and covered in symbols. My goodness. It's thought that the passage leads to 3 chambers and may help explain the beliefs of the civilization. Oh my goodness, they cracked this thing open. There's symbols all over it. Oh my God. It's probably going to talk about the sky gods and the creation of humanity. They're getting ready to roll this stuff out, Bubba. Oh, doggies. It's going to get interesting. Because that's how they'll do it. They'll use the ancient antiquities and the ancient artifacts, and they'll use that stuff as their their ability to bring this stuff out. Well, see here, this is what they were talking about. The tunnel, which is 13 meters below the ground, was originally discovered by chance in 2003 after heavy rain seeped into a tiny hole in the ground. No monarch's tomb has ever been found at the site near Mexico City. Sergio Gomez Chavez, an archaeologist at Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, said, "At the end, there are several chambers which can hold the remains of the rulers of that Mesoamerican civilization. If confirmed, it will be one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the 21st century on a global scale. We know that Teotihuacan was built as a replica of how they saw the cosmos, the universe, and we imagine the tunnel to be a recreation of the underworld." This is just unbelievable. Teotihuacan, with its huge pyramids of the sun and moon, is made up of a labyrinth of palaces, temples, homes, workshops, markets, and avenues. The city is thought to have been built in 100 BC and existed until the 8th century. Archaeologists consider it to be one of the most influential in pre-Hispanic North America, with a population of 200,000 at its peak. Only 5% of Teotihuacan has been excavated, despite more than 100 years of exploration. A small remote-controlled robot, the first to explore Mexico's ruins, took a camera inside a small opening to the tunnel before researchers finally entered last November. See, they're sending these little robots into all these. They're looking for something. They're looking for something. They want to find it bad. They want to find it quick. Otherwise, there wouldn't be all this money being pumped into all this right now, folks. Not right now with all this economic stuff going on. No way. Some 30 experts work at the site, descending 3 ladders to get into the depths of the tunnel. They believe a deliberate effort was made to pile up stones and even pieces of a destroyed temple to block the entrance sometime between 200 and 300 AD. So they were trying to hide this information, hide this knowledge. This sounds to me like what Brantley has talked about in the Gods of Eden. These civilizations that had risen under the guise of these custodians bringing knowledge to mankind. But then once the priesthood took over in these established civilizations, the priesthood then at a later date would order these temples to be destroyed and these things covered up and new ones built, because they couldn't continue their game of gaining power and having power over people when these ancient temples were revealing all the knowledge. They had to put it literally back underground, so that the priests would allow the serf, the citizens, just tiny bits of information. Not enough to where they would challenge the priest's power. And it's no different today. Unbelievable. So they have determined that it was a deliberate effort to cover this up. Man, there's no telling what they're going to find in this. Probably going to be something that's going to say, you know what? Guess what? You motherfuckers better get used to the fact that, we came from aliens. It's just a fact. More than 1,000 burial sites were also discovered thanks to infrared technology capable of probing beneath the desert sands from 450 miles above the earth. Nice that they admit they're doing that from satellite. Nice of them to admit that. The mud bricks used by ancient Egyptians are much denser than the sand and soil that surrounds them, allowing the shapes of homes, temples, tombs, and other structures built thousands of years ago to be seen by satellites that are invisible to the human eye. You look at this stuff. You look at Teotihuacan. If you haven't seen a picture of that, I'll drop one there in the chat room for you. I mean, there's just no question to me that what's in that hidden chamber that they may be revealing to us very soon is going to have something to do with extraterrestrials, because somebody took a great amount of effort to cover it up. Let's see what else we have here tonight for the news. Florida is now going to require all welfare recipients to take a drug test. So if you're in Florida on welfare, then better drink some water, Bubba. Someone in the Philippines have warned some sports drinks may have been contaminated with a chemical that could cause infertility and block boys' sex organ development. It says it shrinks testicles. Well, I mean, the plastic in the bottles does that anyway. Who cares what they fucking spill in it? My God. The World Health Organization has now confirmed that cell phones do increase cancer risk. You know, I wondered about that. You know, it made me wonder when my dad was going through his cancer. It made me wonder, you know, because he'd still be using his cell phone and stuff all the time. It made me wonder, you know, that probably can't be good. If you've already had cancer cells in your body and you beat them, but yet you continue to put yourself, you know, in front of a cell phone and microwaves and all this other stuff, you know, you wouldn't help, but you'd have to think it would cause it to come, that kind of stuff to come back, you know. But, you know, World Health Organization, yeah, we've known that forever. That's, you know, by the way I look at it is that I smoke cigarettes, so I don't need a phone. Maybe one day when I quit cigarettes, I'll get a phone. So then I'll have, you know, one and not the other. I don't know. We'll see. A phone just doesn't give me the same satisfaction a Camel does. You know what I mean? Oh, I failed to mention this one earlier, as if we didn't have enough technology-related AI supercomputer, crazy, maniacal Terminator-style technology reports for you here tonight. We have another one. And another one from our favorite boys in white lab coats at none other than DARPA. Yes, indeed.
Suck Satan's cock, DARPA. Suck that shit one more time, motherfucker.
U.S. spies want computers to analyze metaphors. Here's a linguistics can of worms for you. A U.S. intelligence agency is training computers to analyze metaphors used in foreigners' conversations to determine if they are a threat to national security. The Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Agency, IARPA, a spy version of DARPA under the direction of National Intelligence, is working on something called the Metaphor Program. No, it's not a 60s quiz show. The program is meant to exploit the fact that metaphors are pervasive in everyday talk and reveal the underlying beliefs and worldviews of members of a culture. Researchers will apparently identify and define metaphors from English, Farsi, Spanish, and Russian texts and compile them into a database, but computers will do most of the work. The first phase of the 5-year program will develop automated tools and techniques for recognizing, defining, and categorizing linguistic metaphors. Analysts would later compare subject statements to the database and try to determine their intentions. There's more info in a presentation here in the PDF in the article. Project manager Heather McCollum has suggested that the words used by Israelis and Palestinians or China and Taiwan to describe world events could be analyzed as an example. Statements by extremist leaders could also be studied for the effect of metaphors on followers. It's total information awareness, blanket it all. And again, you know, this computer system wants more information than even the people running the government do, folks. That's why it's heading this way. Whew, I'm about done with the news tonight. I don't think we really had any more other big important things to get out. Just a few other little side straggler stories, but man, oh man, oh man. All right, let's take a break. Come back. We'll continue reading out of William Bramley's The Gods of Eden tonight. Love to hear from you. GlobalRealityShow@gmail.com. That's GlobalRealityShow@gmail.com. This is the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio. Oh, yeah, back here with you on the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight for another edition of the broadcast. We're going to continue on reading here for you tonight with William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. We started into a big chapter last night. We read a lot. But the chapter didn't necessarily want to end, so we're gonna continue on there tonight. Again, we got about 12, 11 hours left here of our shipping banner for the month. We have to meet that goal by tomorrow, and so please, if you happen to get in a situation where the shipping banner has not been met and it runs out, just please use the donate button, and we'll get it done that way. But please don't. I think we've got $500 left to go on there, so we got to raise the rest that way. So we hadn't got anything in to get us close to that yet. So please help us get the rest of the way if you can out there, folks. And don't want to get down to the last minutes here and be worried about what we're going to be able to do. So there you go. All right, we left off last night. Chapter 36, William Brehm is the Gods of Eden. Let's continue here. It is unfortunate that the Nazi defeat and reported deaths of Adolf Hitler and Heinrich Himmler did not end Nazi influence in the world. After World War II, Nazis participated in many important spheres of activity. The American Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, accepted the offer of Reinhard Gehlen, the chief of Russian intelligence operations in the Nazi Secret Service, to help build the American intelligence network in Europe after the war. Gehlen's organization was staffed by many former SS members. The Gehlen organization became a significant element of the CIA in Western Europe, and it also provided the foundation for the intelligence apparatus of modern West Germany. The CIA also extracted information about Nazi psychiatric techniques from Nuremberg war crime trial records for use in the CIA's infamous mind control experiments decades later. Interpol, the private international police organization which is supposed to combat international criminals and drug traffickers, was headed by former Nazi SS officers several times up until 1972. This is not surprising when we consider that Interpol was controlled by the Nazis during World War II. Prince Bernhard of the House of Orange in the Netherlands had been a member of the SS before the war, followed by a stint as an employee of IG Farben. He then married into the House of Orange and assumed his position as chairman of Shell Oil. Prince Bernhard founded the International Bilderberg meetings, which are still held every year. Yeah, for some reason, Alex Jones always leaves that out. He doesn't want you to know Bernhard was Knights of Malta because that, pins down people like Pat Buchanan and these other clowns he associates with. The Bilderberg meetings are meant to be informal get-togethers of the world's top bankers, industrialists, political figures, and other prominent people for the purpose of discussing world conditions and reaching an occasional informal consensus. Prince Bernhard personally chaired these meetings until 1976 when a corruption scandal forced him to resign. Imagine that. To younger people today, World War II is an episode from the distant past, much as World War I is ancient history to people in their 30s and 40s. The conflict most young people understand now is the former Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. World War II did much to set the stage for that confrontation. During World War II, Russia was an ally of the United States. Great Britain and France in the war against Nazi Germany. Russian troops fought against the Germans in many of the Balkan nations which bordered Russia. In the ensuing instability, communist movements gained considerable power in those Balkan countries, and Russian troops remained there after the Germans were defeated. The Allies were not about to prolong the war by turning against the Soviet Union until the Communist Eastern Bloc was born. The Nazi experience is an extraordinarily important one because it happened within the lifetime of a great many people living today. Incredibly, Nazi groups have been revived in America, Germany, and other nations. It's hard to imagine that anyone would join a movement of such proven madness, yet it is happening. The German Nazi experience revealed to us that the world is still being pushed into war, ignorance, and repeated genocides in the same manner that it has been for thousands of years, by a mystical network of organizations pledging ultimate loyalty to an extraterrestrial race. And it's just very hard to argue with that anymore with the evidence, isn't it, folks? The Nazi experience revealed, again, a key channel through which Brotherhood Network influence has been exerted, namely through a community of national intelligence organizations whose activities are kept secret by law and whose activities are often outside of the law. Nazism was but another brutal faction set up in opposition to so many other factions which arose out of the Brotherhood Network. This helped guarantee more war, more suffering, and the continued imprisonment of mankind on a small planet behind walls of ignorance. In Nazism, we saw all the elements that we have looked at in this book come together. The Brotherhood Network, apocalypticism, paper money banking elite, genocide, an extraterrestrial race worshipped as gods and owners of Earth. Nazism should have happened 2,000 years ago, but it occurred only decades ago. All of the history we have looked at in this book may still be happening today, and I would say that absolutely 100%, my research says it is. Never has stopped. These closing observations require us to look once again at the UFO phenomenon itself. If we hypothesize that human society is still being manipulated by a custodial society in the same manner that it was thousands of years ago, then we must determine that UFOs continue to behave now as they did in the distant past. Two questions we might pose to make this determination are this. Are UFOs still spreading the same corrupted brotherhood mysticism today as they did earlier in history? Are they still implanting the false idea that they are God? If we are to believe the testimony of recent UFO abductees, the answer to both queries is yes. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of chapter 36. So let's continue on here tonight. Chapter 37, Modern Ezekiels. UFO abduction cases tend to follow a distinct pattern. A human being is involuntarily taken aboard a UFO, is given a comprehensive physical examination, and is then released. An abductee's memory of the event is usually buried because of apparent mental tampering by the alien captors. Some researchers compare these abduction cases to human biologists who tranquilize wild animals, inspect them, and then release their creatures back into nature. Many recent UFO abduction cases have another recurring characteristic of great significance. Dr. Thomas E. Bullard of Indiana University, whose words appear in the MUFON UFO Journal dated February 1988, had this to say after conducting his own studies into the abduction phenomenon. The commonest sequel to the examination of a human abductee by UFO occupants is a conference, a more or less formal period of conversation between the witness and his captors. Warnings that certain human behaviors are dangerous and prophecies of coming events are also common. The prophecies usually predict coming disasters and even apocalyptic changes on Earth, events the aliens or an enlightened witness may mitigate. The documented cases reviewed by Dr. Bullard provide fascinating evidence that custodians continue to spread the same apocalyptic message today that they have been implanting for thousands of years. Conversely, these modern cases add weight to the historical evidence that many ancient apocalyptic messages, such as those found in the Bible, did indeed come from the same extraterrestrial sources. Dr. Bullard's findings suggest that custodians are still being highly manipulative by, in effect, saying, quote, "You humans are all behaving badly, although we are not going to tell you that we might be the ones who are stirring you up. And there will be catastrophe. Fear not, however, for we angelic souls will save you. Look to us and to our appointed messengers for your salvation." It is straight out of Machiavelli. UFO occupants still come right out today and imply that they're God. One abduction episode in which this occurred involved a woman named Betty Ann Andreessen, whose well-documented and exhaustively researched experience was the subject of an intriguing book entitled The Andreessen Affair by Raymond Fowler. Mrs. Andreessen's abduction occurred on January 25th, 1967. Later, while under hypnosis, Mrs. Andreessen recalled that she had been kidnapped out of her home and was taken aboard an apparent alien aircraft and flown to an unknown location where she was led through what seemed to be a number of unusual red and green underground passages within some sort of city. Well, see, that would lead me to believe that she was taken into inner Earth, and I think there's starting to become more evidence that these extraterrestrials are coming from inside of the Earth, not from outer space. Mrs. Andreessen then had an experience which makes her story unbelievable to many people, but to us, it is the experience which may give her story the most credence. According to Mrs. Andreessen, her abductors took her to a special room. There she underwent what her investigators described as the most painful and emotional segment of her total experience. In the room, Mrs. Andreessen saw a large bird about 15 feet in height. The bird resembled an eagle, but it had a longer neck. It was, in fact, a replica of a phoenix, and it had the illusion of being alive. As Mrs. Andreessen stood and watched it, the phoenix began to undergo a transformation. Mrs. Andreessen felt an intense heat, so powerful that she cried out in pain during her hypnosis session while recounting the incident. The strange alien room abruptly cooled off. Where the great bird had stood, there now burned a small fire. The fire died down to a pile of gray ash with a few red embers. As the pile continued to cool, Betty saw something in the ashes. Now it looks like a worm, she recalled under hypnosis, a big fat worm. It just looks like a big fat worm, a big gray worm just lying there. What Mrs. Andreessen had witnessed was a reenactment of the legend of the Phoenix, clearly staged for her benefit. The Phoenix, as we recall, is a brotherhood symbol which has been used to promote apocalypticism and justify endless human suffering. Although Mrs. Andreessen's vision of the Phoenix constituted only a small portion of her total abduction experience, the investigators concluded, quote, "It is only too obvious that the aliens had brought Betty to the bird as the focal point of her whole experience. It seemed to be the purpose for her travel, though, through the red and green spaces." Mrs. Andreessen testified under hypnosis that after being implanted with this mystical vision, the following conversation ensued between her and her captors. "They called my name and repeated it again in a louder voice. I said, 'No, I don't understand what this is all about. Why am I even here?' And they, whatever it was, said that I have chosen you." "For what have you chosen me?" Betty asked. "I have chosen you to show the world." "Are you God?" Betty asked. "Are you the Lord God?" "I shall show you as your time goes by." At the time of her abduction, Mrs. Andreessen was already a Christian. As a result of her experience, she began to include UFOs in her own Christian apocalyptic belief system. Researcher Raymond Fowler probed those beliefs. Raymond Fowler said, "Have the UFOs anything to do with what we call the second coming of Christ?" And Betty said they definitely do. "When is this going to occur?" "It is not for them to tell you, Raymond Fowler. Do they know? They know the master is getting ready and very close." If real, Betty Andreessen's experience was a remarkable one. It would indicate that she was but one in a very long line of reluctant prophets, forcibly implanted with an apocalyptic religious message by members of the custodial society. Like the Ezekiels who preceded her in history, Betty Andreessen's testimony suggests that she suffered considerable mental tampering at the hands of her abductors. This tampering may account for some of the unusual perceptual phenomenon she experienced during her abduction episode. Unlike past Ezekiels, however, Mrs. Andreessen's vision will probably not be added to the Bible, nor will it cause her to rally an army and embark on a campaign of religious conquest. Her courageous testimony will simply offer the world additional evidence that the 20th century has not seen a change in the methods by which a custodial race appears to maintain a hold on the human race. Does Mrs. Andreessen's experience mean that human society will be required to undergo yet another end-of-the-world episode? The political, social, and economic structure of the world certainly makes it all possible. The Brotherhood Network is alive and active, as are the many institutions it created. They may well bring to our world yet another senseless final battle. Man, oh man, oh man. Good stuff there. I couldn't agree more with a lot of stuff in that, Chad. That is indeed what they're doing. And that's, the CMP research and stuff that I've done and I'm working on these films has shown me that more and more. And this book really confirmed that. But there's just no question that that's who these guys are working for. That's why you've heard on Alex Jones' show for years, don't talk about extraterrestrials, don't look into that stuff, concentrate on the bankers and stuff. They're trying to get you to not really find out who they're working for, how deep this is, and who really is in control. You can go all the way up to the priest class up top, but you've got a whole other level of control that's controlling them and pulling those strings, and those may or may not necessarily be here right on this earth. Imperative information that everybody understands. I will continue to enjoy reading this book and feel like I'm learning more and more loose ends are being tied up, and it's really bringing a lot of the information I already had, making it sharper, putting a nice edge on it. that's the end of chapter 37. The next chapter that we'll get into tomorrow is going to be chapter 38. That's entitled The New Eden. So that's going to be a very interesting chapter in light of the things we just talked about with the Nazis and then now with abductions and the custodians. Unbelievable stuff, man. And you really start to see the fingerprints and the footprints of these quote unquote custodians in just about everything and everywhere you look in everyday life now. Once you become aware of it, I've noticed that more. It's strange, you know. I got to tell you, man, from my experience, you can never be too awake. I mean, write that one down, put it on the board, whatever you want to do. But what I mean is, you know, you don't just wake up to all this stuff and then that's it, you're done. You know, it never stops. And you can always be more awake to this stuff than you are right now. You know, and again, it doesn't require you to join a club or a group or a gang or trying to fit into some social construct. You can still be you and live in your own little weird little world, but you can still find out what's really going on and gain a newer understanding and a greater understanding of it every day and constantly have your mind blown and learn more. And still be an individual. That's, I think, what is really going to be the nexus point of changing things, when people realize that they can be a true individual without a group, and that we can all do that and spread throughout the world, and we can have peace through that. That's the real secret. I think that's going to be the real linchpin when we as a whole, as a people throughout the world, finally figure that out. That's going to do it for our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Got about 11 hours or so left on our chipping banner. We've got to reach that goal, folks, so we can pay the bills for the month. So please support us. If you can't get it in that way, use the donate button, whatever you can. Doesn't matter either way. Please support us so we meet that goal by tomorrow, folks, and get it done. My name is Josh Reeves, and I love each and every one of you, folks, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for the broadcast. You guys have a great night. Be safe. Take care.